Hi guys, welcome back. In this video I'm going to do a little bit of texture creation for this character by applying an image onto this shape just here. I want to do this primarily just to give you a little bit of an example of how to create an organic template, UV template for a curved object. You know, we have done UV templates on our can objects before, sort of a cylindrical one, but organic shapes are a little bit different. So I just wanted to go through that. So I'm going to start off with splitting my screen using the outliner perspective viewport preset. I'll just bring that across, and then I'll switch this over to the UV texture editor just here. So that's via the panels menu, panel, UV texture editor. So because this object originally started as a box, what we've got is this inverted T, and you can see it's got all the extra divisions and everything on. And you can actually see where the mouth shape has been extruded in as well, just there. So I know that this section here is the front of the object. So what we're going to do is create a new UV template for this. I'm going to isolate this selected piece by clicking the Isolate Select button. Okay, and I'm going to unsmooth for this process, just for the time being. Okay. So first of all, what I want to do is basically get the object more or less templated. Now what I want to try and do is create a template definitely for the front, but I want to try and hide where possible all the seams down the back of the object down in here. So what I'm going to do is actually peel the object open from the back and have the backs kind of fanned out. Okay. So what I'm going to do first of all is start off by selecting face mode, and I basically want to select all the polygons on the front, pretty much up to about this polygon here. Okay, so I'm going to select a couple of polygons on the front center like that. Now this is only rough, okay. Maybe grab these ones in here as well. And I'm going to hold down Shift and tap the full stop key several times. And you can see how this is kind of selecting out. It's expanding out like this. Now, because the mouth has been extruded in like this, there's a lot more polygons on the bottom half of the object than there are at the top, which is why it's selected all the way up to the top already, but it still hasn't selected down here. So what I'm going to do is basically add a few more polygons down here to the selection, in particular inside the mouth, sort of through here. Now you can see that it's selecting on either side of the object. That's because my tool settings over here are still set to symmetry world, so it's selecting on both sides of the object, and that was just left over from the time-lapse video that I did earlier on. So I'm just going to select roughly down to where the top is selected. Okay, and across here as well, and down around the bottom, and then I'll hit Shift full stop again, and basically what we'll do is maybe go one more edge like that, and that's going to kind of ensure that everything inside the mouth is selected for the time being. If there's one or two polygons inside there, it's not going to matter too much for me at this point in time. Now I'm going to back this selection off by one row. I think that's probably going to be okay. So I'm going to hit Shift and comma just to shrink this back a little bit. The reason for that is that from the front, obviously these bits are kind of more on the back than they are sort of on the front. So I could actually back it off one more edge. That'll do. Alright, so you can see that the selected polygons are here now. So what I'm going to do is come up to Create UVs, I'll snap this menu off just so I can access it a little bit more quickly. I'm going to use planar mapping. We'll pop into the options. I'm going to use the Z axis so that we're looking from the front of the object. And I'm going to make sure keep image width height ratio is selected. And then I'll hit apply. And you can see it pops the basically the front of the character off like that. Now I'm going to switch on my shaded UV just here. Now this little button here, which is display UV distortion, can come in handy as well. What this does when you click it, basically any white areas are polygons that are not really stretched. The pink areas are stretched quite a lot, which means that on your objects you will get some distortion on those potentially. Those are kind of the problem areas. So you can see, like up here, we've got a bit of distortion on that. All right, but that's not too bad for the time being, and we can kind of fix it up a little bit later. Okay, so that's the first piece. So now what I'm going to do is just turn off the tool for a second, right-click, select face mode, and select all those faces. And you can see over here they're now selected. I'll just turn off the distortion mode. Okay, now what I'll do is hold down Shift and drag a box around everything to invert the selection, and I'll map that section as well. So this is the back. Now you'll notice that it's red, and that's because we're now mapping from the inside of the object. So what we'll need to do is flip those. So I'll right click, select UV mode, select them all, and use the flip function just here, and that'll switch it around the right way. Okay, so this is the front and this is the back. Now, what I want to do basically is try and have as much of this attached as a single piece as possible. At the moment, we've got some polygons around the top which are very squashed, and we've also got some around the bottom that are very squashed. So what I want to do is kind of unstretch them or unsquash them. So I'm going to select UV mode, and I'm going to grab a box of UVs like this, okay, in the middle. And I'll expand that selection out by hitting Shift full stop. Okay, something like that. And now what we want to do basically is kind of expand those unselected UVs out so that we can kind of unfold this a little bit more. Okay, to do that, what we're going to do is now invert this selection so we have just the stretched polygons around the outside selected. So I'll hold down Shift and drag a box across the entire shell, and that'll flip the selection of UVs around. Then what we'll do is pop into the Polygons menu, come down to Optimize, just open up the options there. Pretty much you can just about leave everything as it is. If you hit Apply, you can see that this stretches the polygons out a little bit. All right. Sometimes what you can do is maybe increase the iterations, and then hit Apply. Okay. You can apply a few times, one after the other if you want as well. Keep in mind as well that because most of these polygons are a very similar size, when you're expanding them out, you can just kind of keep hitting the Apply button until they're roughly the shape that you've got. If you hit the the display distortion button, you can see now that the red value is gone. So this has basically unfolded them. You can then do the same thing over here as well. So you can kind of grab those and hit Optimize just there. And you can see that that kind of unfolds everything. Okay, I'll grab this shell. What we might be able to do is try it just with everything selected like that. So if you Optimize, so you can see what's happening here is because the mouth has several different sections that are all folded over on itself, it's actually distorting those when it tries to smooth them. One of the things I was going to do is actually remove the mouth from this piece of the template. So I'll just undo that. So I'll just go Edit, Undo. Okay, that takes us roughly back to where we were. I'm just going to minimize this for a second. And what we'll do is actually disconnect the mouth out of there. So I'm going to select Edge Mode, and I'm going to come into this bit just here, double click it, and that's going to select all of the edges around the mouth, and we can see them kind of selected in there. And what we can do is use the cut tool just here. Separate the UVs along the selected edges like that. Just click it, then grab your move UV shell tool, click inside the mouth, and then you can break that piece off. So that's now a separate shell. So then if we select this one again, we can try the optimize and see whether or not we actually get anything working a little better. Yep, so that's a lot better now. So what this is going to do essentially is kind of help prevent stretching on our UV templates. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do, as I mentioned earlier, is I'd like to actually have the seam or the join running down the middle. So I want to actually add a few more of these polygons over here onto this. Because the back of this is going to be hidden inside the model, it doesn't really matter if the texture is a bit stretched or whatever. But I don't want to have edges on my texture showing up running down the sides of the character here. I prefer them to be hidden inside here. Okay, so to that end, what I'm going to do is select edge mode. Okay, now we'll have to turn off move UV shell just here. I'm going to grab edge mode. Now what you can do is actually use select shortest edge path tool just here. If you click on that, what you can then do is click on these corners like that, and it will actually select edges as you go along. So what I want to do is basically take that section like that and cut that. All right, and then that piece can come off. So grab move UV shell, just snap that bit off. And I'll do the same thing down the sides. So starting there, that UV down to the corner. So I can kind of see this piece in here is the original corner of the cube that I used for this object. So it kind of forms a nice spot with which to create those hidden seams. Like that. Just kind of break that off. Now what I might actually do is actually separate this down the middle as well. Another one down here. Actually, what I might do, rather than, I'm going to have to rejoin this piece onto here, but I think what I'll do first of all is snap this piece off at the bottom. So round to here, and down to here. Cut that. So that bit's off now. And then what I'll do is slice this down the middle. So once again, we'll grab the shortest edge. We go, cut it, and then bring that across. So I'm actually going to reattach this piece so it looks like this. So I'm going to grab edge mode, grab the edges down the side there. Got to turn this off again, I always forget that. It's one of those tools that doesn't disengage by itself, and it can cause your selections to deselect or to not select when you're trying to. Okay, I've got those. I'm going to hit move UV, move and sew UV along selected edges. All right. So now what I want to do basically is get this bit here attached to the top. This bit here gets attached to the side, this bit at the bottom, this bit over the other side. So I'm just going to move them in a position first, just roughly lining them up. Now this bit here needs to be rotated because that's going to be attached to the underside. Oops, like that. So is this. Move that over here, and that bit's going to attach onto there. So each of these edges aligns with another one of these edges. So if I grab edge mode and select down to there, you can see that it basically selects edges on both sides. And if I move and sew them, they'll attach. Now obviously as I do that, you can see that the distortion shading is actually showing up that we're getting some distortion, which is what we would expect. Okay. After the optimization that we did just before, it's actually slightly changed the scales. Now we might actually be able to adjust the optimization as well. We might be able to kind of re-optimize stuff now. Now I know the middle here, okay, is basically not stretched. The white sections aren't. Most of the stretching is occurring sort of up here. around the corners, but we can try using just the straight out optimize function anyway. So we'll bring that up and apply it. You can see that automatically is kind of reducing that stretching. So you can just optimize a couple more times like that. Okay, something like that should be fine. Once again, I mean, this is a pretty basic character, so I'm not going to push this too far. This is really just to give you a very, very, very basic overview for getting your characters kind of adjusted. I will optimize these as well, so I'll just hit optimize. Maybe do that again. This really is just going to be black anyway, so it's not going to matter too much if it's a bit stretched. You can see it was rotating there a little bit, so I'm just going to straighten that up. Okay, so pop that down the corner, and then what I need to do is take this and get this to fit into the corner of the grid here. So I'll just kind of pop that up like that, I think. Select everything. You can try doing unfold. All right, and that you can see that that's kind of stretched it as well. We're getting quite a bit more distortion everywhere. But it does automatically fit it inside here. Okay, I'll just do it manually so I get a little bit less of that distortion. Actually, what it's doing is, as we shrink it, it's actually essentially saying that it's distorting. So these are new tools to this version of Maya. They've had similar tools in the past, but they haven't worked exactly the same. And this distortion shade is new, so this isn't something that I've used before, but it has similarities to the previous tools. I've just adjusted them a little bit, so the workflow is ever so slightly different to what we've had available before. So something like that should be fine. What I try and do where possible is get these vertical edges kind of as lined up as I can. Getting those center lines as straight as possible, like that. All right, and once again, you know, because this is going to be black, it doesn't really matter if it's that big. You know, we can actually make that pretty small, kind of hide it down in the corner, and I can kind of maximize the size of this piece here. Let's kind of scale that up a bit. In fact, with that, I could probably just use the unfold value. That's not too bad. I do notice that tends to try and make it up, kind of set it so that it's upside down. I definitely prefer to have it the right way around. So I'll just rotate the whole selection in like that. Okay, so what I'll do now is basically go down to UV snapshot. I'm going to change this to Sushi Guy Salmon, and then 10 at the end. I'll leave it at 2048. I'll leave it as a ping, leave the color value as white. Aspect ratio is on, and we've got our normal range just here, which is this dark gray corner. So I'll just hit OK. And if I jump over into my project folder, I will find that template just here under the images folder. And there's the template just there that we've exported. All right, so I'm going to save this. Oops, so I'll just hit the save button. And in the next video, we'll jump into Photoshop and we will paint up a very, very, very basic texture for this this UV template, and we'll place the texture into a material on the object. So I'll see you then.